Like, we talked about how we were worried about your daughter the other day, right?
Okay.
You remember that conversation?
I remember that conversation, but right off the rip, with the way you're approaching the conversation, you guys are completely out of line. So.
Me?
Yeah.
Do I? In the time that you've known me, which
what you just said to me, you guys are completely out of line.
Okay, but so explain to me, how are we out of line?
I have nothing to explain.
Okay, but wouldn't you rather explain it so we can make sense of it than just have other people's side of the story? Like, you want to defend yourself and like this picture people are painting of you? Now's your chance, man. Defend.
Whose side of the story? Who's telling you these things?
People that were close to you.
Obviously not.
Well, maybe at the time, maybe not anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw that reward on the news, right?
No, I did not.
Do you know that the reward is about $40,000 to find where your daughter is right now?
Okay.
When you start throwing money around like that, people come out of the woodwork that you would never expect to do.
Okay.
So, like I said, when I talked to you a few days ago...
Can I have another cigarette?
Sure. I kind of told you this thing was going to get a lot bigger.
That's not right.
And we wanted to get ahead of it.
But you're sitting there telling me that right off the rip that there was something wrong with my daughter because of me. No, that's bullshit.
Okay. So if your daughter had marks on her at some point when you lived over there, how would you explain those?
How would she get those marks?
Well, I would love to know when that marks were there because DCYF came to my house multiple times.
Okay. And we know that they came there.
Right. And closed the case.
Okay. Do we know that DCYF is the flagship agency in the country?
No, but if there was significant marks like you're referring to, I believe they would have flagged something at that point and they would have said something. They wouldn't have came there and seen that the kids were well taken care of. All the kids loved being at the house.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so it goes back to the cup, takes up more space, which is interesting because we might go, well, he's being a bit more confident right now. I think it's more likely he wants to show everybody in the room that he's more confident. There comes a point in the question where he makes a decision. He's going to have to front this one up. He's going to have to be confident here. Starts adapting on the cup. That's, moving the cup around for no apparent reason is what adapting would be in this particular situation. Taking up more space and a kind of a lint picking, let's say, but on the table, brushing the ash away. Again, I think that's in order for it's adapting. So there's an element there of stress. At the same time, it could show that he's nonchalant to what's going on. It can show that he is confident. Is that because he's actually confident? No, I think it's more likely he wants to show us that he's confident here. Look, if I was accused of assaulting my own child, why do I care about ash on the table? Why do I care about anything else other than clearing up this situation? Significant marks. One of the interviewers here says as a question, tell us about these significant marks. The kids were well loved. Well, that doesn't answer the question because, my kids are well loved and they've had significant marks on them. Kids get into scrapes all the time. Things can be explained. You can be well loved and you can have significant marks, but he wants to deviate away from that. Scott, what do you got on this one?
All right. Yeah, I agree with you. He moves that cup and wipes the table and stuff because he's got to have something to do. Again, I agree with you. It's because of control. He has none. So he's adapting and he's making it look like something's happening when there's really nothing going on. Quite often when you see somebody, what you were talking about, lint picking, Mark, I know this is one of the things you cover all the time. When someone is disrespecting you, as you talk to them, they'll start pulling stuff off their clothes and doing that, like you're insignificant to what's going on. This little stuff on my shirt's more important than that. But in this case, I think he's just kind of freaking out. He just needs something to do. And it's his brain saying, we got to be in control of something. And I think he's trying his best to find out what they know because they've hinted that they know something. And he doesn't know if somebody's talked to him. Is it his wife? Is it one of his friends? And when they talk to him, when they tell him. So he's trying to find out if they did talk to somebody because he can't tell if they're faking or not. So then he's being so still. And in this specific situation, this lets us know his mind is racing. He's got a lot of that internal dialogue going on up there. And now he thinks there may be a chance he's going to get out of this, I think, as he squirms through this. But plus, he thinks there's a rat in his camp. So they're starting to psychologically bear down on him and tell him, you've got no friends, man. You're in here. It's us. And he's starting to feel that heat. But I think somewhere in his brain, he's still got that idea he can get away with it, that he's going to get away. But they're not, well, we'll see we know he doesn't do it. So, but then he asks for a cigarette. And he talks a little bit more when he has one. And I think they know that because he becomes more comfortable. And that's why they give it to him. And one of the keys to a good interrogation is shutting up and just letting him yap as much as you possibly can. And for the most part, that's what these guys are doing. But I think he's under a lot of stress and he's feeling that stress right now. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, this is a really good one because I think his gears are turning, but they're not meshing. I think his brain, from whatever substance he's used, they're not necessarily meshing well like we would think. There's a couple of interesting things. And Mark, I agree with you. He's trying to do something here. He is spinning. This is all spin. He's trying this anger approach and then the no evidence approach to try to push you off. There's feigned anger in him. You can't miss it. He does the Nixon, the Richard Nixon brow down as he's talking, but he does a non-confident head bobble. If you're driving a point with your head, you drive a point with your head. You don't do this. And so we see that. And then they go into classic read and they say, hey, we want to hear it from you. We don't want other people to tell you. When they do that, he breaks eye contact and then he tweaks. I'm not sure that's anything other than fidget because there's something going on inside his brain. Smoking is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful adapter because it's ritualistic and it comforts a person in addition to the nicotine. Never smoked a day in my life, but I'm a child of the 60s. And I always said when I lived with my parents, I was a 2-pack a day man from secondhand smoke, because everybody smoked when I was a kid. And you know that nicotine soothes the person who's, and some of you have smoked before will know, soothes your nerves. In addition to that, there's all the ritual that goes with it, all the hand movement, all the flicking the ashes and all that kind of stuff that becomes second nature and really adaptive. But pay attention to him because there's one thing he does that is higher energy than anything else. And I agree with all of you. It's that wipe, that really hard wipe of the desk. That's high energy and it's control of the situation. I think he is trying to release nervous energy in every way he possibly can. He does a classic, the child argument of, I know you are, but what am I? There's not content at all to his argument back. I could have scripted the line. I almost wrote it down while I was watching it to show you guys. I could have scripted the line, who told you that? Because that's classic for, it didn't happen. No, who told you that? I always say the truth needs no support, but lies love a crutch. This guy's looking for a crutch. And these are all the things he's doing. When he says, no, I didn't, he breaks eye contact. And then he makes hard eye contact at the questioner until he asks for another cigarette, and then he breaks away. This is one of those opportunities when you see the guy breaking away, hard eye contacting the lead investigator and the other, it's a really good indicator in the interrogation room that Mutt and Jeff, threat and rescue, good cop, bad cop, whatever term we use in all the different businesses will work on that guy because he's already identified threat and friend. And so we take advantage of it. I'll leave the last couple of pieces, but I just want to say this one thing. He says the kids wanted to be there. Kids adapt to horrific situations and don't know the difference. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. And so him saying all that kind of stuff makes him more of a monster to me, not less. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree. Y'all covered a lot there. Few things here. In this clip, there's no denial. He just says that the way they're approaching the conversation is out of line. Then he says it again. What you just said to me, blah, 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 you guys are completely out of line. No denial. This is a big deal. And instead of denying anything again, he says, whose side of the story? Who's telling you these things? He asks. So this might be an accidental leakage of knowledge, that when there's two sides of the story, then there's somebody he's intimately familiar with who's involved, and you can see where he thinks his information is coming from. So instead of a denial, again, he's requesting the sources of the information. So Lots of self-restraint here. That's what we're seeing with his hands there. And there's two reasons that we tend to do this. Number one is we want to burn off these spikes in adrenaline. And keep in mind, I'm not saying adrenaline or nervousness means somebody's guilty, but it is important to pay attention where and when you see these things. And we're seeing them at this critical moment right here. The second reason is self-restraint. And this is when a person feels they're losing control. When somebody makes no attempt to hide this behavior, so keep in mind, this self-restraint here with his hands, there's no attempt to hide it. This is a big deal. So there's likely two things going on. They likely do this frequently because they're not aware that this is abnormal, because it's part of their baseline, because they're doing this all the time. And next, they have self-control issues and very low levels of self-control, which is why this behavior seems normal for them. That's why there's no attempt at concealment, because it's a normal behavior. And he never mentions himself being innocent, only that the other people have observed things, which is a huge red flag. The first honest thing I think we see here is his confidence in saying the kids loved being in the house. Greg, perfectly to your point, kids adapt, and they were probably happy in the house at some points in time. And him being a monster doesn't mean he didn't have moments of lucidity and kindness. So I don't doubt that this is true based on this huge spike. Right when he says that, there's a huge spike in his confidence right there. That's all I got.
Yeah, Chase, when I say monster, look, it could be drugs. It could be drugs that caused him to do whatever. Don't care.
Yeah.
You know, this is a horrible crime to me.
Hey, I got Dr. Phil's book came in on my Kindle last night because I pre-ordered it. Has anybody gotten theirs yet? I've read it. I've read not all of it, obviously. The first 2.5 chapters. Has anybody read? Have you gotten it yet? Have you
No.
I haven't gotten mine yet.
Today.
So, do you think you'll do a version where he reads it and you can listen?
There's
to
an
it?
audio version. There's going to be an audio version, but I don't know if it's him or not, because the last
I
one
don't
they
think it
did
is him.
was somebody
But
else.
if it isn't, hey, if it's not him, Chase, will you read it in his voice for me?
I certainly will. I will.
But good book. I know. We talked to him when he was writing this book. In the books, we got issues, and I think it is a good primer for people to think about. Some of the stuff we talk about, where division and that kind of stuff, he talks about a lot.
The opener of this thing. Wait till you get to that, man. Just the way he opens it's killer. You'll absolutely love it. If you're a big reader, you'll absolutely love it. So
check
I'm going to
check
go.
the book out. It's called We've Got Issues.
You can buy it anywhere, right?
Really
You
good.
talking to me?
Yeah. Have we? I haven't.
You.
Not mine.
Oh, sorry.
You, not you.
Forgot we were totally on the thing. Yes.
Not this you.
Yes,
It's that you.
It's sorry, man. I was like, what are you doing?
One of those tape replays.
We talked about how we were worried about your daughter the other day, right?
Okay.
Do you remember that conversation?
I remember that conversation, but right off the rip, with the way you're approaching the conversation, you guys are completely out of line. So,
Me?
yeah.
Do I? In the time you've known me, which
What you just said to me, you guys are completely out of line.
okay, but so explain to me, how are we out of line?
I have nothing to explain.
Okay, but wouldn't you rather explain it so we can make sense of it than just have other people's side of the story? Like, you want to defend yourself and like this picture people are painting of you, now's your chance, man. Defend
Whose side of the story? Who's telling you these things?
people that were close to you.
Obviously not.
Well, maybe at the time, maybe not anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw that reward on the news, right?
No, I did not.
Do you know that the reward is about $40,000 to find where your daughter is right now?
Okay.
When you start throwing money around like that, people come out of the woodwork that you would never expect to do.
Okay.
So, like I said, when I talked to you a few days ago,
Can I have another cigarette?
sure, I kind of told you this thing was going to get a lot bigger.
That's not right.
And we wanted to get ahead of it.
But you're sitting there telling me that right off the rip that there was something wrong with my daughter because of me. No, that's bullshit.
Okay. So if your daughter had marks on her at some point when you lived over there,
As far,
How would you explain those?
How would she have got those marks?
well, I would love to know when that marks were there because DCYF came to my house multiple times.
Okay, and we know that they came there.
Right, and closed the case.
Okay. Do we know that DCYF is the flagship agency in the country?
No, but if there was significant marks like you're referring to, I believe they would have flagged something at that point and they would have said something. They wouldn't have came there and seen that the kids were well taken care of. All the kids loved being at the house.
If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.